Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dr. Prim's Thought Space. I am Primrose Jikomborero Joylene Bima, and I create content about research, career development, and wellness. Today's episode is basically going to be about me speaking about how I'm experiencing a certain type of writer's block. And the good news is that it's not the worst kind. I have so many ideas. I intend to write. The thought of writing does keep me awake, which is, of course, opposed to the other type of, writer's block where you don't know what you want to write. You are stuck. You're doing everything else but writing, sleeping, going out to run or hike in the forest, hanging out with your friends and just ignoring the reality that you need to be writing. Now, I want to write a book. I think that's one form of publication that I do not have out there. I have journal articles, I've done working papers to present at conferences. I also have book chapters. And obviously, I have my PhD thesis, my master's dissertation, my honors research project as write ups as well. Now, I think that when I was writing in those formats, the idea was that they were going to be outputs slash deliverables for whatever I was undertaking. So if it's a degree, you've got a master's dissertation, PhD thesis, honors research project. If it's also for a postdoctoral research fellowship, you're churning out the journal articles, the book chapters, and the working papers to present at conferences. And then obviously the remuneration comes in the regard of the postdoc, of course. But now, if I'm writing a book, I am writing it because I want to write one. And right now, no one is paying me to do this. And also, I need to make sure that the book rather, sells. So, the writer's block I'm experiencing is because I'm thinking I should be doing other things with my time, other things that have guaranteed income. For example, I'm a research consultant, I'm also an editor. So obviously those take precedence in my mind, and also because I need to be living and I need to be making money. I also want to enjoy life. So this thought of writing a book and the dedication that is required for its time was is just, bothering me a lot. However, I have decided that, I am going to give myself up to 7 months between June of this year and maybe up to like about January or a bit into February next year to write this book. Have three ideas and they are totally separate from each other. Number one is I would love to write about disengagement in terms of politics, particularly focusing on why youth on the African continent choose to not vote in electoral processes. Now, there's a lot of democratic processes that the youth do not participate in. Also, that just like the African publics in general do not engage in because, of this idea that, well, it's kind of like a waste of time. The leaders are already leading. Just let them be. Let me hustle for my life and try to make a living because at the end of the day, I do not eat democracy, which is, of course, is a subject for debate for another day. And I think I relate strongly to this type of title because it is a space that I have been in as a young person, just wanting to disengage during particular phases because I feel that my voice or my vote, whatever it is that I do, will not yield any benefits, or that I personally will not feel the benefits in the way that, I ought to benefit from the democratic processes. I hope to engage with youth from particularly Southern African countries. And obviously, I would not leave out the country of Zimbabwe, my country of nationality and citizenship. So this is a tricky subject to write about, I believe, because it's highly political, and I'm going to be uncapping fellow youth's wounds, probably uncapping my personal wounds as well. Going into research does trigger you in many ways if you're heavily invested in a subject. And I feel that if I write such a book, it can be fiction. Now, there's a challenge. I've been writing academically for such a long time, and academic review processes also take quite a long time. and also they come also with scrutiny that includes the reviewer's biases. And with my intention being to spotlight the lived experiences and opinions of these young people, I don't want a lot of people meddling in my book write up, though I appreciate, the existence of peer review and whatnot. So I'm strongly inclined to not write on this. I have decided that if I do not write a book on this subject, I should at least explore this topic in journal articles and put that up for review and whatnot, and have the articles published over a number of years. Also, I think that this endeavor will be quite expensive. I am self funded and I would highly appreciate not putting a lot of money into this, particularly if I don't know how well the books will sell. Because, foremost, we know that many people these days are struggling due to piracy. People just cross distribute your e copy, or, at worst, people won't read it anyway because the culture of reading has more or less died. And I also feel that this topic is something that people speak about a lot in many spaces. And if I end the book on a note that doesn't really give real solutions to why the youth should vote, without addressing the key factors that lead them to not vote, it might just be one of those talk shop kind of vibes where you just say stuff and, this is why we're not voting. This is what should ideally be done by politicians. And that's it, when we know that the cycle will just continue with politicians moving on with people that would vote for them or people that would engage with them anyway, and continue demonizing the youth. So I think as this thought process goes on, I've chucked out that idea. Now, book idea number 2. The title is Mukwerekwere. Mukwerekwere is, to a large extent, a bad word. It is a word that has often been linked to identifying Black foreign nationals. It's used in South Africa. It's also used in Lesotho. So I have been a Mukwerekwere for at least 16 years out of the 32 years of my life thus far, probably going on 17 because I'm turning 33 soon. So very much heavily based on personal experience and insights, navigating different countries, not just South Africa, but Lesotho as well as Eswatini. And to speak about how xenophobia boils down to Afrophobia and sometimes Zimbophobia, because obviously I'm Zimbabwean, so there are forms of Zimbabwean xenophobia or Afrophobia I've experienced or seen people experiencing. I think that the downside of being a Black foreigner in a majority Black country is something I've never really seen in literally text, and I want to do that. And also going to speak about surviving this lost sense of hope, which also leads to lost sense of home. So home is no longer home because you might return to it sometimes, but when you go there, you realize that you no longer belong. And then the temporary homes that you create in the spaces where you go leave, they're always constant reminders that this too is not home. So you look into your heart, into your soul, into your mind, you're like, you know what? I am my own home. But there's so much boiling inside you, and the situations of temporality, the liminality you experience waiting for visas, not knowing what's coming up next when it comes to opportunities and how to plan your life. I think those are worth exploring and just speaking about different people's um, experiences rather. So yeah, I think my own rendition of We Need New Names is what this book will be. We Need New Names is a book by Novayolette Bulawayo, and I think that I will cite everything, from experiences with immigration officials up to, violent outbursts that other people have experienced or that I've noticed in myself, up to even spotlighting xenophobia in workspaces and what have you, taxi ranks, at the shops, anywhere. And this is not to downplay the reality that being able to live in a country that is not your own means that you are being accommodated, that there are people that are welcoming towards you. So to also show that holistic picture that surviving in a space also means that there are pockets of hope, that there are seasons of homeliness or spaces that offer you that kind of refuge, that kind of solace that is needed to keep you going and surviving. So this is not an agenda to rubbish any context, any kind of people, but to just give a spotlight, educate, give hope to the young, the old that, read this book, that are experiencing migrancy in any type of particular context. And also, I do think that writing this book will be some way of healing personal wounds, as opposed to, the triggering experiences that I would otherwise gain from my first book title option, the one on youth disengagement from politics. I think this would sell. I think this would sell. And if it doesn't sell really well, I think I can turn it into other forms of content. Hopefully, if I make money, become a filmmaker. And I also think that it can get people talking, and that whoever it touches, that it will touch their hearts and their souls and their minds, and that it will just be one of the African literary pieces that in history will go down as a must read. So highly, highly, highly into that idea. And I think that it might take me a while to put different people's stories together and try to make this fiction. And while I will experience moments of just being super emotional, I know that this will be an amazing book. Heavily tempted to make myself the protagonist, and that means that, it's going to be a very fun creative process. I am really looking forward to this. Now, we think that we have a topic. Number three, girl. Number three, I want to write a book about womanhood and the concept of waithood. Now, this is about trying to figure life out, and I'm trying to figure life out. And as I write the book, I will still be doing the same. There's no finality to it. And it has been difficult for me to try and conceptualize different characters, because if I had in my way, I would write sort of like, simply based on personal experience. But I want to just appreciate the wide range of femininities that we have, particularly people who are within my generation, millennials who have decided to forego or who are yet to take up roles as spouses, as homeowners, as car owners, and those who have had the privilege to just be able to do so, or those also that have deliberately sought after those goals and have already ticked to say, I have achieved them. And I think it's important because having stories that tell us about different ways of living, different types of womanhoods, different types of being a woman are important. We are raised in societies through culture and religion, and even through political agenda that require us to live in a particular way, and also that then those standards demonize us when we fail. I use the word fail loosely, when we fail to achieve those. And this demonization comes in many ways. People don't care how successful you are academically, how successful you are professionally. If you don't meet their socio-cultural standards or religious measures of an accomplished adult, it means you have failed. So I think this will uncap many wounds. Writing the first 6 pages of this book, which I did a few days ago, triggered me. I had anxiety attacks. I've been having quite a lot of those. I don't know if it's associated with winter, but yeah, I realized that, I wanted to write this book. I could have probably finished it in one night. I had so many stories that I wanted to put together, and it was flowing. The writing is just amazing. Super tempted to really make this my first book project. But then I was thinking of the fact that some people want to know who within the story is me, right? Because obviously I'm going to spotlight womanhood and waithood more, like to a larger extent. And also, I'm going to speak about how people will ridicule you, how people will mock you. And I will definitely, definitely pick on personal experiences. Um, so just thinking about ways of not revealing people's names and not identifying spaces and occasions, but wanting to put the story out there is something that I'm really struggling with. But I think the idea is to just say, write, and then go back into the text and try and make those corrections. Now, I struggle with that because obviously I want to just write really well from the get go and have a semi clean first draft. And I do think that writing this book is going to mean a lot to me and many women out there, and just bring the sisterhood together and just help us to know that when we reach womanhood, it can be experienced differently, and that no one is lesser than the other. And then also that sometimes things take longer than we imagine or than whatever measure has been put in whatever space we're living. And I would love to use this book as an activist tool. I also want to just use it more for content creation and so much more. So I am heavily inclined to write about this topic. And yeah, I'm ready to be hated by some people because I know that such kind of content is often not well received. And some people will say, oh no, you're just feeling sorry for yourself, licking your own wounds, you're lying to yourself, further deception and whatnot. But I do think that I want to give it a try, and I believe that we need this book. So I am at the stage where I've shared with you the writer's block that I'm experiencing. I don't know what kind of writer's block you're experiencing. Hopefully, you've got different topic ideas, whether it's for an article, thesis, dissertation, or a book, like in my case. And I just want to know, what do you think I should write about based on my current assessment? Of course, what you say matters, but I will write what I want to write when I want to write about it. I think the plan now is to plan the book that I want to go with so that I'm not just hopping from one idea to the other, and then have the 7 month period that I spoke about to just write it out, to get it out there for editing, and just, I think, first of all, pursue self publishing. And then if it grows, then if there's a publisher or anyone who's interested in working with me, then take it further up from there. I think that I will definitely make my 15-year-old self happy because she wanted a PhD and she wanted to have literally works. And I hope that I will also be able to develop content from there. Yeah, so I'm sitting with my thoughts right now. I want to know, what do you think? What do you think I should write about? Feel free to comment in the comment section. If we know each other personally, you can also send me messages, or even just send me messages via email at pzjbima@gmail.com. If you are going through your own phase of writer's block, I wish you all the best, and do try and find ways of getting yourself out of that space. Decluttering involves thinking deeply about what is it you want to write about, what you need to write about, and focusing on it. And also reminding yourself that the cost of not writing is failure. I personally hate failure. I hate embarrassing myself, and I overjudge myself. So just that fear of failure drives me. I hope that you know what drives you out of, that rut, and that you manage to write what you need to be writing right now. It is goodbye for now, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.